beautiful people. Welcome.
Hi there.
So Star, would you like to tell the people, obviously you're a key faculty member for the university, but tell everybody who you are and what you specialize in.
Sure. My name is Star Rose Bond, and I am a licensed clinical social worker at heart. So activism, grassroots organizing, and working with the people and for the people is very much integrated into who I am. I am, New York City girl, but I'm out in the country at the moment in the hills of Northern California. And I specialize in trauma-informed coaching with a psychodynamic component and an absolute flavor for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Amazing. We're so lucky to have you on the team.
Thank you.
And you happen to be a favorite of university student Ryan Hyatt. So
I know he's been promoting my stuff. He shares it. It's so cute. I'm so grateful.
He loves it. He's a tough customer, my son. So
Yeah.
let me tell you something. And Renee, welcome. Renee and I go way back. Tell everybody about you.
Okay, so yes, I am C. Renee Washington. I am a master certified life coach, master certified by Susan Hyatt. And yes, and I specialize in midlife women. And for me, midlife can be 50, 60, 70, 80. It's a state of mind.
I'm not midlife yet? Are you saying I'm not midlife
well,
yet?
It starts like around 45-ish chronologically. But, people think that there's some ending to it. And it just represents for me that we here to live our best damn life until we can't. And that means we're being dropped in the urn or dropped in the ground. So,
Sure.
So that's what I specialize in, helping women re-envision, reinvent, transition, and just keep doing the thing. So that's what I love to do.
I love it. I'm joking because I just turned 48. And so I'm like, maybe
Really?
I'm almost, I just turned May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And so I often wonder, like, at what age do we get to call ourselves crones? Like,
I'm calling myself a crone now.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm owning that word. The first time I saw it, I was like, crone, because it made me think of crow. But I'm like, but I am crowing. I'm crowing about all the things. So yes, I'm owning this crone thing. Yes.
That's new generation witch right there. Crone.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, and I'll be 62 in August.
You will not.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will, Susan. And every time I say that number, I'm like, really? Yes, 62 in August, I can get Social Security.
Yes. That makes my whole day. So I don't know what status I am, but I am everybody get their life right status today.
Right.
So
right.
That's my status right now. So Paula's 50. 50 was the new beginning for me. Chandra is starting ULCT in June. Hi, welcome. These are your instructors, the three of us, the three of the many. Jennifer in Evansville, Indiana. Oh, a local person considering becoming a coach because I already give away my time for free and I feel I have a lot to offer.
Stop that shit. Less.
Yeah, no more.
Join now.
No more. Like, I love being evidence when people find out I live in, for those of you who didn't know, Evansville, Indiana, and have created a thriving coaching business right here from this home office for the last 14 years. If it's possible for me, it is definitely possible for any of you who feel called to do so. So let's talk a little bit about, I selected these two members of faculty because I think they each have a unique voice. Oh, Sherry from Evansville is here. She's like, Evansville is great. I lovingly call it Heavensville, almost as a joke. But yes, it is a fabulous place to be. It is, y'all. But each of these women offer, not only are they from different generations and different backgrounds, they bring their own flavor to using their voices and speaking out. And often when I work with clients, there are, over the past 14 years, there have been many reasons why women in particular feel like they can't say what they mean. They can't stand up or advocate for social justice issues. And if anything, the past year has taught us is that it's paramount that we do so, and that we use the gifts that we have to not only improve our own lives, but to improve the lives of others. And so some of the reasons, I have my own opinions on my top 5 reasons why people don't. And then I also understand for sure what happens for someone when they do. That is the opposite of the fear that our minds create. But Renee, what would you say when you are working with clients and specifically coaches who want to stand up, step up, and speak out? What are some of the reasons why you think they hesitate to do so?
One of the big ones that I see is that they feel they aren't qualified, worthy, whatever that term is, and particularly in spaces that they think they don't have the right to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that underlying fear of being accused of saying the wrong thing you shouldn't say, and so they opt out and they hide.
Hiding it because they don't feel qualified to say
Right.
it, or they don't
Yeah,
feel
don't
safe
feel
to say it.
qualified. Yeah, yes. Yeah, and that can be from the smallest thing. I just had somebody actually in our cohort this morning say that, I've never worked in corporate, and so, when I'm coaching somebody working in corporate, I haven't had that experience. So it can be something as minimal as that, all the way up to, well, I'm white and I don't have a right to talk about things that are going on in communities that I'm not a part of, or I'm not LGBTQI, or I've never experienced trauma. I mean, we can just take ourselves out of a conversation based on thinking that because we have not experienced, we don't have any right to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure, those are definitely common ones that I hear. What about you, Star? What do you think are some of the reasons why people hesitate to stand up and speak out?
I think it's a couple things. From a business perspective, I completely echo what Renee, said in terms of like that, chronic imposter syndrome. And that happens, it's pervasive with coaches. They think that they have this one lane, this one place they can be. And then, in the event that they're exposed to any other type of community or demographic, they don't feel qualified. So I think the imposter syndrome is big. I think from a business perspective, what I also see is a lot of coaches is there's a fear of ruffling feathers because whether it's from like a scarcity mindset around like, well, if this community gets upset with me, or I can't meet this need, or if I fuck up and say something inappropriate, then what does that mean for me as a business? I need to acquiesce or appease all communities. And that is a huge fallacy when it comes to business. And I know that Susan, you talk a lot about this, but like, you can't be everything to everyone. You know what I mean? Even if you pick one community, one group, like you're solid. And so I think that that's a really, really big challenge, is that people are scared to put their name out. If you're controversial or you've got something powerful to say, there's going to be people that don't like you. You know what I mean? And I think by and large, people are not accustomed to being okay with not being liked. You know what I mean? Or feeling rejected, or a lack of belonging.
Right. I think you both are hitting on such hot issues here, and imposter syndrome is one of them. And one of the things that I've been thinking about lately with imposter syndrome, because that's one of my top 5, it is this notion of imposter syndrome and some of the newer conversation around it. Because with entrepreneurs in general, and life coaches certainly fall into that category, imposter syndrome is one of the top terrible mindset tricks that happen to us. But when you think about the patriarchy and you think about all the reasons why female entrepreneurs in particular are scared to use their voice, Imposter syndrome is like programmed in us. Like, is it imposter syndrome or is it just the patriarchy? You know, it's like we're raised to think that we're not enough for anything. And who are we in terms of being qualified and all those things? And so it's really interesting. So if any of you watching are hesitating to use your voice because of the fear that you aren't qualified enough or you aren't something enough, just know that every time that you don't step up and speak out, the patriarchy is winning. Like, you're being obedient. You're doing exactly what you were trained to do. And we at the university want to help disrupt that. And it doesn't have to happen all at once. I mean, we'll talk about things that you can do, but I think another thing that happens is people will hear us talking about these kinds of things and be like, okay, well, now I just need to quit everything and donate all my time to a social justice cause. And that's not what we're saying. We're saying you can integrate it into like breathing. It's just part of a way of life that makes your life so much richer. I think that's another thing, is that people think if I start using my voice, my life is going to get awful. You know, I am going to deal with haters and I'm going to be exhausted and I'm going to, like, life is not going to be as good if I advocate for others. And honestly, I would love to hear what you two have to say about it. But the moment I decided, and this would have been 2012, the moment I decided that I was going to stop hiding what I really thought, my whole world got better. Now, are there moments? For sure. There are moments, like, I don't enjoy reading hate mail, but what I will say is that my friendships got better. Real relationships started happening in my life. My business grew. My whole world became like this beautiful kaleidoscope that we use in the university as a metaphor, much more beautiful because of my willingness to start saying what I really thought about politics and religion and philosophy and all of those things. And I'm still learning, and my messaging is never perfect. I'm always messing it up, but it's, my whole world opened up in ways that it never would have happened had I just stayed in this, I call it Velveeta land, this very white, hetero, all American sort of boring life. My life would have been so much more boring. Anyway, Renee, what do you have to say about this?
Oh my gosh. So I will track myself back to ending my corporate career in 2012 for different reasons. And one of them was I had lost my edit button, because if those of you who have had the corporate experience, you know, I had been there for almost 28 years. And even though I was considered as someone who probably pushed the line a little more than others, still I was suppressing a lot of things that I really wanted to say. And I kind of stopped doing that. And to the point where I was like, okay, they're going to fire me. So I might as well go ahead and leave. But these are continuous decisions and ongoing, because life is, keeps coming at you. So I also, when you were talking, I thought about last year when I left a major community that was connected to my life now, my coaching world. And I kind of blew up in that community because of some things that were going on in the midst of all of the racial issues that were coming to the forefront last summer. And the community that I was in, that I was very grateful to be in, felt very tied to. And I didn't think that that my life was going to dissolve if I left the community. But you have that thing about, there are a lot of great people in here in this community. The person running the community is extremely well known. If I say what I want to say, how will that impact me? But one of my personal life models has always been do what you can live with. Do what you can live with. And when
Write that down, Brene. Do what you can live with.
Yes. And when I say live, I mean live. I don't mean exist. Because people exist in a lot of ways. And I don't want to exist. I want to live full tilt, and I want to live my values. And my highest value is freedom. And if I can't roll in that lane, if I am suppressing or dumbing myself down, or no. So I left, and I left loudly.
I watched the exit. Yes. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think when you are in a room where you don't feel welcome or safe or represented, then it's you got to go.
Yeah. You have to, and you have to make those individual decisions and trust that what you are leaving with is yourself and your self-respect. And as long as I have me, I'm good. So, we get attached to people, things, and all, no. And like you said, my world has expanded exponentially since I left that corporate life, since I started, connecting to people outside of my small world here in Alabama, which is a whole nother story. And now I think of myself as a global citizen. And if I'm going to think of myself as a global citizen, then yes, I have to show up and advocate and speak up and live as a global citizen. It can't just be about my little corner of the world.
I think that that's one of the most important things about, or one of the values and the missions of the university is this is training as a coach. There are so many things that within any industry that need to be repaired, and within our industry there are many things that need to be repaired. And part of our mission is helping our coaches understand the responsibility of being a global citizen and yes, being connected to your own community and changing your own community, but being able to think about the impact that coaching work can have on the world, and not just our little corner with people who look and live like we do. So what do you have to say, Miss Bond?
Well, I mean, I can't even date back to like how long I've had a big mouth. I feel like that's been, I've been getting arrested, since probably age 14 or 15 for being in the streets and protesting and, sit-ins, etc. And over the years, I refined my activism because I had come from a very different background from a lot of my peers and my colleagues, having been through the system myself, incarceration, you know what I mean, shuffled through the broken mental health system. I had really a firsthand experience of like systemic oppression, and not just on my end, but like through my peers, and really seeing those injustices. And so what for me, in terms of like, I'm a really huge proponent of education, because the truth of the matter is that even if I came from hardship, even if I had, this history of trauma, et cetera, I'm still a product of colonization, right? I still have access to privilege over those who don't. And so for me, it was really about like defining who I was in the world, but doing it in a way where I could really reach the eyes and ears of people who typically didn't want to hear this type of information. So that was a big transformation for me in my 20s, I would say. Instead of coming into the room kicking and screaming, it was more about, I want to have those tough conversations. I don't want to sit with more people that look like me, that are in my social work school. You know what I mean? Like, I'm preaching to the choir in that sense. I want to have those hard conversations. And so as my social work career took place, I got to sit down with white supremacists. I got to sit down with, misogynistic CEOs and executives of big organizations and nonprofits who were embedding into their programming, this heroic approach to shit, and, very heteronormative, principles. So for me, I look at coaching in a lot of ways as an opportunity to not only, like you talk about, Susan, in terms of this is for a very long time has been a whitewashed, colonized kind of industry. And I like the idea because I never thought I would go and get my master's degree and then go become a coach. But I look at it like I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna infiltrate, because this is an area, this is an industry where we have access to people, to platforms, to power, to money, right? And so part of our privilege as white women, right? And I'll speak for myself, is being able to go into these conversations, into these platforms, and having those difficult conversations, even if I feel like I don't have all the answers, even if I think I'm going to make a mistake, because ultimately what we want to do is we want to create inclusivity, we want to create change and transformation. And part of what we're doing in the coaching industry is really bucking up against these social constructs that say who we are and who we're not. And so what we know too is that in business, the way that we start creating change is when more people who've been part of protected classes are making more goddamn money, right? Like when they have more power, when they have more platform, when I can run a program and I have a woman of color, I have somebody from, a non-binary sector, if I have someone over here from this different community or group, and not only do they got money in their bank account, but they have a platform and a voice, that's when shit starts shifting. And that's what we want to create, And so for me, that's been a part of who I am as a coach. And it's really what I think, needs to be the intention. And I love in the university that we really pride ourselves in education and cultural competency, because I think going back to that first question, like, how do we step into the world? Why are we hesitant to talk about shit? The truth of the matter is that we all have blind spots, me included. You know what I mean? I've been teaching DEI courses, for a decade plus, and I still have blind spots. So that
wait, I have to interrupt you and say we need to say gaps in understanding.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
blind spots is ableist.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
I just got schooled in this. By the way, I had an amazing interview yesterday with a future faculty member who is a blind woman who will be teaching us, educating us on ableism.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just thought I would throw that in there, right? Like we make mistakes.
Exactly.
Totally.
Right
and that willingness to be compassionately checked. Do you know what I mean? So we need communities like that where we could be like, no, actually, let me holler at you because that we're doing different language now,
Yeah, we all have something to learn. That's the thing. And that is what I love about the university too, is that you have set up an opportunity for all of us, like Star said, to be compassionately checked on some things, because gaps in understanding versus blind spot. There are a lot of things that I don't know. Just the your communication about trauma, Star. Now, I've been walking around saying, I'm Black, so I know I'm traumatized. But there are many ways that that we are impacted by trauma, because you typically think about it being something major. And you taught me so much in these little ways that trauma can impact us, all the way up to what we typically think of as trauma. So that this university, it is like unlike anything I've seen. And my foundational life coach training was great, mostly because of who it connected me to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I will say, because when we think about these big issues, then that's another way that we can opt out of taking a stand or speaking up, because they feel so large and so overwhelming. What I have seen is that one small conversation at a time. I've been in many events with Susan over the past several years, and have met many coaches, many people, and I've learned, and I've also been able to teach, just and not from a formal perspective, just by showing up in a space that maybe I didn't see necessarily a lot of people that look like me. Mm-hmm. That's okay. That's okay, because what was provided was an opportunity to have conversations that are real, that are not coded around let's just all get along and let's, no. When you're in Susan's world, whatever platform you're providing, Susan, one of the things I've always appreciated about you is that we can be real. I can say, no, that doesn't work for me, or, ooh, I never thought about it that way. So it is, when you think about showing up for yourself and who you are, this is a safe but challenging space. I'll say it that way, because it's not safe in, ooh, nothing's gonna, make me feel bad, but it's safe in a good and challenging way that you can, begin to expand and begin to grow beyond, that little lane, that box that you've been in.
Yeah, I often think about, in 2007, when I trained to become a life coach, who I was then, the woman that I've grown into over the years, and the depth of learning and understanding that I have today. And I think forward to, wow, in 14 years from now, holy, I will for sure be a crone by then. But like the space that the university, that we are all co-creating this university. And the thing that I'm really excited about it is what you say, that it's a place for coaches to go to get what I consider to be the best coach training available, while also doing it through a DEI lens. I think is really exciting and personally life-changing, and then outwardly world-changing. Because the things that I'm hearing our students doing, the conversations that they're having, the questions that they're asking, the things that they're learning, and then the projects that they will be working on is pretty exciting. Now, to step up and accept that invitation to do that kind of work, we mentioned imposter syndrome. Something else, I was doing a one-on-one session this morning with a client, and she's exhausted. And I think that another thing that can get in the way of really doing this work in your own life and making an impact on the world, that I think is really real for a lot of women in particular, is exhaustion at a very deep level. If you're exhausted, you don't have the capacity to do what you could do. And so one of the things I wanted to bring up for those of you watching, how many of y'all are tired? And the level of exhaustion, I don't know about you, Star and Renee, that I'm witnessing among clients, exhaustion from we're still not post-COVID, but exhaustion from the pandemic, exhaustion from the election, exhaustion from all the things that are happening in the world, and being able to, it's not just having enough willpower to have an impact on the world. It has to start with, what can you do to help your own burnout or exhaustion so that you can contribute? And so, for example, the client that I was working with this morning, simple things like, okay, no phone in the bedroom when you're trying to sleep, getting up and having an hour before you start consuming social media. Hydrating can be life-changing, making sure you're moving your body, all those things that can seem like a luxury to so many who are experiencing deep fatigue.
Yes.
And so I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Part of the reason that I am so hype about self-care as a life coach is because I know that I can't, and Ryan Hyatt taught me this. Raising Ryan Hyatt taught me from when he was a tiny kid that I couldn't do my best work unless I was taking care of myself in some really basic ways, getting the right amount of sleep, moving my body, eating as well as I could, having alone time, all those things that can seem out of reach for someone who's working multiple jobs or someone who's, doing their best to hold it all together. So I would love to hear, Renee, and then we'll go to you, Star, again. What do you think about exhaustion affecting someone's ability to step up and speak out? And what advice do you give people who are experiencing that?
Whew. Yes, I don't know if you've seen this new thing that there's a book out called DBT for dummies. It's dialectical behavior therapy. It's a new
Oh
program.
yes, I love some DBT. Yes.
Yeah. And so I've been listening to that, and it is so true that this ability to tap into how we can feed resilience and first acknowledge, just the acknowledgement that, damn, it is tired to be in this world. I mean, it is exhausting to be in this world right now. And we are so used to just pushing through. And I absolutely see that in clients. I see it in myself. And I did have a question for you, Susan. Is BEAR a part of the curriculum?
So the BEAR process is not formally a part of the ULCT curriculum, but it's like seeded.
Yeah. You might want to make it formally. I'm serious about that, because I'm taking, and for those of you who aren't aware of Susan's BEAR process, you should be if you are not, but it definitely speaks to this topic of rest through, we say self-care, but no, this is like really taking care of yourself and honoring the gift of, our temples, our bodies in various ways through, detoxing our minds, our environment, adding pleasure into our life. And this is top of mind for me because my best friend and I are going through BEAR together. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing for me is rest. Mm-hmm. That I am not treating myself to enough rest. And so I do think that this is an issue because, as we all know, that if we aren't fully rested, it impacts how we think, how we feel. It connects to everything. And so for those of us who do want to contribute at the highest level, who do want to make a difference in the world, and one of the wonderful things about coaching is that the win-win in coaching is that you get to positively impact other people's lives by helping them show up in their best selves, and you're learning and getting to, absorb all of this, what you're giving out, the live it, the give it thing is true. That it's a win-win. And, we all do have to acknowledge that we need to step out, step away, do things that aren't always about the work, because, it is work to take care of ourselves. That's a kind of work also. And it's the most important.
I appreciate you saying all that. And the thing that you said about being able to positively impact someone else's life while also doing the work yourself and living it to give it and walking the talk. When I was working with my client this morning, and she was like, she just came off of a launch and she was feeling very burnout, and we were giving her some things to do that are all very BEAR focused. And one of the newest things that I was doing, I was real hot on, and then I got away from it, was taking a 24-hour digital detox. And she was like, I bought that book you talked about, it's called How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Yes.
And she was like, I think maybe I'm going to do it. I'm like, when? How about this Friday? I'll do it with you. And I was like, I've gotten away from it. I'm going to get back in it with you, because it is critical for self-care to take breaks from some of these things that drain us. And I get that also is a privilege, that some people feel that their smartphone or their online world is where they get their relationships and their intimacy and all those things. And so this is all very nuanced, but it's helping a client figure out like, what is it that is truly self-care for you? What is it that is rest for you? If y'all don't follow, is it the Nap Ministries on Instagram, that rest is resistance, rest is social justice. And I fully believe that. What do you think, Star? What do you got on this?
Oh, I got lots on this, because I feel like this is like a very normative reality from the field that I come from in social work. Like, it's almost just, number one, it's considered one of those pink collar industries. You know, coaching is too, where women predominantly take up this space. And so we know that, you know, women-based industries, there is a huge connotation that number one, you don't get paid that much, you're underappreciated, and you should work and work and work until you feel completely overwhelmed, and then you should work some more, right? So that's a real like patriarchal message that we get very early on. And that we are the nurturers and we're the caretakers and we're the ones that are expected to give under any and all circumstances. And, you know, again, as a social worker, it's pretty much understood that the cultural norm is that number one, you can expect burnout, right? And that's just part of the job. And personally, where I come from, you know, as a coach, I completely want to dismantle that reality, because this is the thing. I'm a huge proponent of coaches going first. And that's what I tell all my mentees, that like, don't ever ask your client, and I think this is what we really teach here in ULCT, is that don't ever ask or request or demand from your client something that you haven't done yourself. And so a lot of people come to coaches because they're tired, because they're unmotivated, because they're uninspired. And so if you're struggling with that as a coach, you're absolutely going to create barriers with your relationship with your clients. And so part of what I think coaching, when you switch up your mindset around it, is the thing that creates burnout is an attachment to outcome. Mm-hmm. So somehow when you work with somebody, it's your responsibility to get them from point A to point B. And you know what, it's your responsibility to help them improve this. It's your responsibility to, you know, create an avenue for success for them. And the truth of the matter is that the coach is there to not only be a corrective and healthy relationship, but we are here to uplift, to inspire, to offer resources, to ask the really, really good questions, right? We are here to create community and create momentum where there otherwise isn't. And so when you can let go of this attachment, like, when I get on a call with all of you, you know what I mean? Or I meet with a client, or I do, you know, my work in my virtual world with my programs, I have zero attachment to what my clients do when we get off that call. I make sure that I show up in my best, whatever that is. I went to my Pilates class. I had a green juice, you know what I mean? I did my yoga, whatever it is. I danced in my kitchen naked. Doesn't matter, right? But my job, my only job, and this is what I really, really want to emphasize to everyone on this call, your job is to show up in your best from that place of fullness, right? And whatever and alignment and connection. And from there, you have the world to offer. After that, that's on them. So this whole idea, you know what, about like burnout in the coaching industry and in therapy, et cetera, like that's a personal issue. I really, really feel that way, because when I get on a call, I feel uplifted, because I'm talking about all the shit that makes me feel good. And I'm talking about the moves that we're making, and I'm talking about momentum. So it's really about, I think, also creating or taking inventory. When you talk about self-care, I feel like that gets really watered down, especially it's like a social media meme at this point. It's about taking inventory of the shit that taxes you, right? Whether it is your phone, whether it's reading content that drains you, whether it's listening to another sad story, or you're getting in your car and listening to some more emo ass music, like whatever it is that brings you down, then that's your job to figure out what lifts you up. Start listening to stories of hope. Start looking at the public policies that are changing as a result of more DEI being in public domains. Like, start leaning into the things that are working while also keeping an eye on the work that we still have to do. But you can't, like, just like Renee says, you can't be face planted in the process all the time. You will drown, and you won't make it, truthfully. So
it's so good.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And I want to tag on to something even more granular, because I get this question periodically too. Like, you know, when you're in a session with a client, and you know, coaches will ask, well, how do you take notes, and what do you do, and do you give homework, and you know, at that granular level. And I'm just like Star said, I'm there to ask provoking questions.
Yeah.
I'm there to help you see yourself. I'm not there to document your life experience. I mean, yes, I do, but I tell coaches, if you leave a coaching call exhausted, you're doing something wrong.
You're definitely attached to their outcome, or you haven't learned how to,
Yeah, yeah,
if you're an empath, you haven't learned how to have energetic
yeah. How to
boundaries. There were two
protect it.
things
Yeah,
that I was exhausted my first month as a coach.
yeah,
I felt like somebody had dragged me behind
yeah,
a back truck, face
yeah,
down. And I had to, and it was exactly what you two were saying. I was
yeah.
very attached to their outcome. I thought I could control
Right.
their result, which jumping in the pool with them, no, we teach you how to
No.
not do that at the university. And also how to have, I am empathetic. I'm an
Yeah.
empath as well. And I have learned how to control or buffer my own energy and like exude my energy, but not absorb other people's emotions. And like sometimes I'll be like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, that's not mine.
Right.
Not
Right.
mine. Look at what I just did. I just took
Exactly.
on their
Yeah.
emotion.
So
So
yeah, and I also think it's a woman-centered thing that we have to justify, what we're charging people by doing all this extra work on their behalf, and so we have to write books on our clients, and we have to give homework, and we have to check the homework, and no. Yes, yes, you want to show up, like Star said, in your best self, and help them create their own path. That's what we're in. Whether they do that or not, it may not be the right time for them to receive what they're getting. That's not about, I'm not going to take that on. And I had to learn that too, that I can't take other people's outcome on. I have to learn how to draw a boundary around that.
And what else in terms of like looking at really, I feel like when we get out, like, why go to a coaching school, right? Because the truth of the matter, you can go out and coach all day. You know what I'm saying? With no regulations, no certifications. You can call yourself A, B, and C, a shaman, a counselor, whatever. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to this type of work, when you want to be a badass coach who's like moving mountains and, creating change, you're going to need some external support. I got a goddamn team working for me. I'm a badass coach and I still have a team working for me, right? Because we need that feedback. We need that reflection. And I will tell you, one of the biggest challenges or barriers that we face in the human services world, whether you're a therapist, a social worker, an addiction specialist, is that there is a ton of people out there that go into this industry so damn eager to process someone else's shit, but they haven't started processing their own. And then what happens, right? All your shit comes spilling out into your work with your clients. And then you ain't got nobody around to support you, right? So I recommend anybody who's planning on coaching, you better have a damn coach yourself.
You have to have a coach. So true. You have to have
absolutely. And so part of ULCC really brings that together. You have really, really awesome people wanting to support you in this journey, and also giving you that reflection so that as you have these hiccups, as you step up, as you speak out, and you're like, ooh, what is mine and what is there? You have somebody else who can support you, really, really understanding and creating mastery around that journey. Otherwise, you will burn out, and otherwise, you're going to be the coach who's inauthentic in the world and doing things. You know what I mean? That you're not doing the real work. And that's where, again, we get this watered down version of what the coaching industry has been, that I know Susan's really dedicated, and all of us here are dedicated to really transforming.
Yeah. What does it say about you if you're not drinking the lemonade you're serving? It just,
cheers. No, it's so true. And like one of my final points was going to be, you have to be in community. Like one of the biggest reasons why people don't step up, stand up, speak out is because they don't have the right community around them to fall back on, like Star's saying. So let me tell you something. The people that I have assembled and curated and handpicked for this university, which I will get to going through here in a minute, is there is no accident. Each one of them has been handpicked for a certain reason and hired for a certain reason, a certain expertise, a certain perspective, a certain background, a certain training. I would put our faculty up against there is no other. Like, there is no better squad for coaches who want to create world change. Period. I said what I said. And you can't, like Star is saying, you can't do the work that you want to do without the right support. It just doesn't happen without a squad, without people who've got your back, without coach mentors saying like, this was great, here's how this could go better. And so I feel very strongly, a lot of the coaches that I work with who struggle the most are searching for a community that can really help them become the best that they can be. And so I'm really happy, like a week.
Yeah, and I just want to say, and I'm not trying to hype you up, Susan, but I would just say, having experienced the opposite, is that, and particularly in these times where everybody's trying to get, on board with making their thing look like people think it should look, that Susan is not that person. This is not about a photo op of, oh, look at my diverse my diverse team or my diverse faculty. It's not about that for her, because I can tell y'all categorically, well before this became a thing, this DEI became a thing and the thing to do, Susan has always purposed and been intentional about being inclusive, about whatever, where she has always been really good about meeting people where they are, and honoring and respecting and acknowledging that. And so I've never felt, and I've been in many spaces where I have felt like, I'm just here. Immediately have always felt welcome, not only welcomed by Susan, but seen. And I'm saying that because that is going to absolutely feed anything she creates. So this university, for anybody who wants to grow in that way, who wants to expand their world, who wants to be connected in a community of people who come from all different lanes, all different backgrounds. This is purposed by her and intentional and real. It's not fake shit. And I just wanted to say that, because I do see people who now I'm just like side eye.
It's a buzzword right now, right? Yeah. Like, yeah, it's trendy. It's trendy, yeah. And yeah. One of our greatest mistakes that we can make is just like, people ride waves out. People ride trends out. And so we don't want this to be a trend. This is something
right, not a trend. And it never has been. So
exactly.
Yeah, this is just part of excellence. This isn't a buzzword or a trend. This is the way that coaches need to be trained to be their best authentic selves and create change in the world.
Yeah. And you do it from a sense of humility, and people can mistake that word for being dumbed down or tapped down. No, you're open, always open. And because you're open, what you do provides open spaces, open platforms, open opportunities. So yeah.
And truthfully, this is allyship in its finest. Like, yes, I'm so fucking I'm so tired of hearing that word on like an Instagram meme. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm an ally. Are you? What are you doing? Truthfully is what it boils down to. Allyship is more than, a Facebook post. It's more than, your queer identified friend. It's more than your donation here. It's the way in which you really navigate the world around you, just like you said, Renee, with humility, and you are willing to take those steps to make your business, to make your social clout, to make your, your network, your community safe, inclusive, welcoming, right? And just like Renee says, when people walk into a room and they feel genuinely seen, then here we are. This is more than a conversation. This is a connection. And when connection occurs, transformation occurs. So at the heart, that's what we want to do. We're friggin' coaches. We're here to transform. We need safety in that mix.
Right. And like, to me, I'm always excited to find out what I don't know, actually. You know, I'm like, what? Like, I was on this meeting yesterday with this hopefully future faculty member, and she was asking me a bunch of questions, and I was like, no, but tell me more. You know, I was like, oh, like, I don't even know what that means. Tell me.
Yeah.
So that I can now like go Google that shit and implement that immediately. You know, so I think it is definitely, thank you both for that beautiful reflection. It is my biggest honor to help develop something that is this exciting, you know?
And I can't think of any other big platform white center coach that I would work for. And I mean that. I wouldn't, I did this because of knowing who you are, not just to do it. So I wouldn't have done it for anybody else.
Oh, well, thank you. I have to give credit to, I always give credit to Cora Hyatt, my 20-year-old daughter, who's starting at age 8, was like educating me. She was the kid at the Thanksgiving table saying, this is a bullshit holiday, Columbus, what, you know, and I mean, like, what? So I give it all to my daughter, who's like one step ahead of me always. So I definitely want to make sure we have time for questions. So if y'all want to start popping your questions into the chat, I am going to show you a couple of slides if I can figure out how to, can y'all see these slides?
Mhm.
Yes.
Thank you. I couldn't do it earlier. That's like, there's the beautiful star. There's the beautiful C. Renee. We already talked about all this stuff, but I wanted to show you some of the curriculum. So this is a 6-month program. I know Mallory will be popping links into the chat for you. We also have a brand new magazine, FYI. I don't know if Renee and Star, you've seen it yet. We need to give it to all the faculty members, but we just produced the most beautiful magazine in the world. We'll send it to y'all. But our curriculum has not just live trainings. We have small group mentoring, which Star and Renee are 2 of the coach mentors who actually observe coaches coaching, give feedback. We also have an online learning classroom, of course, DEI training. We also have business training, which we haven't gotten to with the first cohort yet, but I love being a one-stop shop for coaches and not just teaching you the art of how to coach, but how to make money as a coach and a certification process. So I always laugh when I show these slides because I keep adding classes for the students, as these faculty members know. I'm like, hey, how about you teach this now? We keep adding, but there's a minimum of 16. I think there's actually 18 now, live master classes, and we cover everything from psychological safety and dynamic communication techniques to the wisdom of the body, bringing compassion techniques into thought work, social change and social justice, of course. Star teaches classes on how to be trauma informed as a coach, and on and on and on. When you learn coaching techniques in the master classes, then you take them to the small group coach mentoring circles with coach mentors like Renee and Star and practice them with, might I add, real clients. So it's not just practicing with your fellow coaches, you are actually observed coaching real people in real time. We also have video classes that go with each training module. So there's a whole library of video classes for you to learn from and ask questions about. We have 12 DEI training videos, and we break down this diversity continuum that we've created, which is taking yourself and clients from a state of apathy to activism. So apathy, awareness, appreciation, advocacy, and then activism. And I would say that I was really in the appreciation phase for a long time before I actually started doing something. So we cover that and teach you how to do it. There's business training. The certification requirements and benefits are, we have you attend live classes, of course, complete 25 hours of practice coaching, submit a coach sample for evaluation. We also teach you how to create your own coaching tools. And there is a social justice project that we have our students complete, which our current students are chomping at the bit to find out what we're going to have them do. But we want to make sure that our students are actually doing something with what they learn. And then once you're certified, you're part of our coach directory. Because of time, I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is our ULCT coaching model, which is a kaleidoscope metaphor where we teach you how to meet your clients where they are through gaining context, by asking powerful questions and using strong coaching tools, getting clarity, then having them make consideration about where they are in the process and what they want to do, establish a commitment to change, and then hopefully celebrating with them when they've achieved their goal. Students are supported through our faculty and coach mentoring. So we have the amazing Erica Hines, who has been a DEI consultant for my company for a while, even before ULCT. We have the lovely Patty Rantapa, who is a master certified coach and business coach. She's also a coach mentor. We have Mako Ward, who is a professor and faculty head of African and African American Studies at Arizona State University. She is an amazing asset to our faculty. Dr. Anna Verzoni, Chrissy Ball, who's one of our coach mentors, Lachelle Wooten, who is a lecturer at Columbia. She's a social worker and life coach. She's also one of our coach mentors. Ray McDaniel, they are the CEO of Practical Audacity and Genderfuck. Actually, I have a recent podcast episode with Ray. Ray absolutely educates us on gender norms and disrupting how to support the trans community. Dr. Elysa Roberts is a university professor for 20 plus years. She's also a Bearmaster certified coach and is another coach mentor that's amazing. Nicole Iacavoni, she is a money therapist, but she's also a coach and definitely helps our students understand ethics in coaching and working with difficult clients and clinical skills, all those things. Mo Carrick, who is an amazing asset to our DEI faculty, author, TEDx speaker, helps create brave spaces within the university. You've met the lovely C. Renee Washington and the lovely Star Rose Bond. We also have the amazing Stacy Danford, who is the founder of the Grateful Brain, and she just did a class with our students on the brain and how the brain functions, and has produced a video series for the ULCT on neuroscience. And so it's not just think a positive thought, but she educates everyone on how the brain actually functions. And then Lynn Elioff, who is mostly heading up some of the business classes that our students are going to learn. Lynn is another Bear certified coach, and she is an attorney and an amazing business coach. And we're so lucky to have her. This is a pretty graphic of lots of stuff you get. So you get 6 months of training through live classes, recorded videos. You get membership into a small cohort. We break our entire group down into small cohorts of 10 to do your coach mentoring and practice mentoring classes. We include DEI training videos, which is not separate from the curriculum, but you do get some extra learning videos there. And we also mail you something special. Y'all know I love snail mail and cute boxes full of goodies that we send. And then when you finish your training, you actually get a session with Patty on like, what do you want to do with this certification now? What's next for you career-wise as a coach? And this is everything at one glance that you get, which is a lot. It's a one-stop shop. And these are some of our current students who were gracious enough to give us their thoughts and testimonials on what their experience has been so far with ULCT. So Emma basically says she's learning how to be calm and consistent, practical steps to building a life. She's given the tools from day one. Helen says, I knew I could trust Susan with not silencing me or trying to change me, and also offer me the best team of dynamic feminist teachers I needed. Hello, awesome. Kelly says, sensitive topics are always challenging to approach, which is why DEI education is so invaluable. Laura, ULCT is the only coach training program that teaches coaching tools and techniques specifically designed to be inclusive and anti-oppressive. Lindsay says she highly recommends us. It'll make you a stronger coach, but also a better ally. Marianne says, this testimonial tickles me because Marianne has taken 4 coach training certifications, including my bear coach training. And she was like, this is the best one, including bear. All right, Marianne, I'll take it. And Sandy says it's robust, it's thorough. She's never seen any other coach training like it before. I would have to agree. Sherry's here right now. I saw you in this chat, Sherry. She's local to me. When people are provided a pathway to positive and meaningful options, it will enhance their lives. It just takes my breath away. So I kind of raced through that because of time. But if you want to study online and become a certified coach through the university, the investment is $9,997. We do have payment plans available. So when you go to the link, universityforlifecoachtraining.com, you can click on the enroll button, and this is what it looks like. You can pick your payment plan. So you can pay in full, or you can pick a payment plan. And then this is what the registration screen looks like. And I think that's it, right? So I'm going to stop my screen share. And Mallory, if you want to let me know, Kelly wants to know, is it ICF approved yet? No, we're still working on it. We have some hoops to jump through, but it will be. Mallory, I know you collected some questions, and I know I'm going over time. So Star and Renee, please don't feel like you have to hang around if you have a coaching session to go to.
I'm good till noon.
Okay, all right.
I do have to go, but I put it in the chat, but I will just say, listen, follow this nudge. If you are feeling led to do this, I promise you, you won't regret it. In fact, you will just thank yourself over and over again for having done it. So do it.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Renee.
Love you, Susan.
I love you back.
Bye, Renee.
Bye, Star.
Okay, Mallory, I know you collected some questions before we even started. And if you've noticed some questions we need to answer before we say goodbye, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest questions we actually got, I think actually goes hand in hand with life coaching and becoming a life coach. And so someone had said they feel they know their purpose, but how do they let go of the fear of failure and embrace the reward of risk? I'm scared of letting go of my steady but draining, boring job. Do I give myself specific items to reach for that will allow me to take that leap into a new career? And I just thought that would be really, really good to speak on with life coach training, because I know a lot of people are sometimes hesitant at first. So what's a good way to step into life coach training and begin to prepare yourself for it?
Well, so a couple of things come to mind. First of all, I love how she worded the reward of risk, because there really is everyone is wired differently for risk. And before I became a coach, I would have said, or before I actually became an entrepreneur, prior to even being a coach, I would have said my top value was security. And I was very risk averse. And something happened when I became an entrepreneur, and that I started to value freedom above security. And so it is important to recognize that people are wired differently for risk. And some people are more apt to take physical risk than emotional risk, and financial risk. And so, I'm someone who I will not bungee jump. You will not see me in a go-kart. I do not downhill ski. I am very physically risk averse. I cannot stand risk physically with my limb. Emotionally and financially, I have a high tolerance for risk. And so the question is to ask yourself, how do you feel about the reward of risk? And based on that answer, I'm pretty practical in putting together a transition plan to go from boring soul-sucking job to entrepreneurship. Like, what do you need to be able to sleep at night? How much do you need to have in savings? Like, what kinds of signs of life for your business do you need to have to be able to continue to move forward? Some people can set their desk on fire and walk out of that cubicle and say, deuces, I'm doing this. And other people need a lot of cushion to be able to sleep at night. And only you can answer that question. But I often say to people, if you imagine what you could do if you felt excited about what you were doing instead of bored to tears, which is what this person who submitted this question said. Like, I'm bored, it's soul sucking. Like, look at what you're accomplishing in that state, and what might you be able to do for yourself if you were actually burning with passion for what it was you were doing. And that's ultimately the thought that helped me leave my very lucrative career and go into this field that where I live, no one had ever heard of, including, my husband and my family and whatever. That's what I'd have to say about that. Star, do you have anything to add to that?
I think by and large, part of what keeps us constricted and in lack consciousness around finances and money is when we feel disconnected from ourselves, feel disconnected from the world. We're caught in that dissonance between who we are and who we want to be, and we're not really showing up in the ways that feel most meaningful. So when you're in a place like that, it's pretty, normative to expect that the fear around financial scarcity is going to be there. But if you put yourself in a position where you're feeling more educated, right, and you're feeling more competent in your capacities, you're going to gain confidence from that, and you're going to feel empowered. And when you're in that place, not only do you have like confidence, competency, and empowerment, now you're actually in receptive mode to start actually believing that I can not only make a difference, but I can make money doing a difference. So I think a big part of like what hinders people from making that leap is going back to that very first question, in the webinar around, that imposter syndrome. I don't know if I have what it takes, or I don't feel credible enough or confident enough. And when you have those set of beliefs, right, you're absolutely going to create barriers to your success. But given the fact, when you put yourself in a scenario where you can feel supported to pivot and alter that sort of mindset and actually access and obtain the tools necessary to move forward, that's a game changer, right? Because once you know who you are in the world, you're unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, and it's like, once I had decided, I went through this limbo period of like, should I, shouldn't I, all these things. And then once I decided, that was it. I had someone else go to my office and pack up my office and put the boxes in my garage. And it was years before I even opened those garages. And I'm like, oh, I could have, or those boxes in the garage. I'm like, I could have used this stapler, but I couldn't even look in those boxes. It was so like, I am so done with this. Okay. Next question, Mallory, if we have one.
Yeah, actually, Allison in the comments had asked, how relevant would this be to someone looking to coach executives in a corporate context?
Hi, Allison. I know you, Allison. So Star's like, boom, like, we think it's wildly imperative, because think about the change that you could have or your clients could have in a corporate setting with this kind of training.
Yes, 100%. I mean, again, going back to that conversation around more platform, more access to information, right? More power and possibility. So when you're in a corporate setting, you have access to power, privilege, and platform. And so if we are infiltrating those domains with this type of information, this type of content, right, this level of radical and restorative ways of being in the world, that has that trickle down effect. So by and large, like my angle mostly at this stage in the game in my career is the fact that I love working with CEOs, executives, in the larger world of corporate, because you have access to such a larger community through that process.
Yes. Such a good question. It's good to see you here, Allison. All right. Any other questions you want us to address, Miss Mallory?
I think those were the major ones that we had, and I know we're over time a little bit. So
Yeah, I know. I want to respect everybody's time, and I want to thank everybody for being here. We will send out this replay. We'll also send out the beautiful new magazine that we just produced called Become a Life Coach. It's packed full of juicy info and articles and things that might help you make a decision. And if you are, oh, Mallory already put the link to it. So if you are considering joining the university, our next round starts mid-June. If you'd like to go ahead and enroll, do that. If you want to talk to Patty on our team, do that. You can certainly direct questions to any of us. We're happy to answer. And we just are thrilled that you took the time to spend an hour and 15 minutes with us today. So thank you to Star and Renee for being here and
Thank you.
and educating the peeps. And thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Mallory, for your help.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having me, Susan.
All right. It's always good. Bye.